like I said, like the saying goes, you tell God you're playing and he laughs,
Yeah.
So I've been laughing with him, child, because I see that, we got to scratch that,
Get around those obstacles and make room to create opportunities. You are listening to the Around the Way podcast. And now, your hosts, Kyle King and Kiana Williams.
Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. We are here with one of the queens of Charlotte, Miss Shassity. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Amazing. How was your weekend?
It was great. I got a lot of rest. Enjoyed a little of the sunshine, so I have no complaints.
Love it. Love it. Where do you get your sunshine?
Physically or literally?
You answered however you want.
Well, if I had to be completely honest, I am an introverted extrovert. So I can stay inside all the time and be at complete peace. However, I was in a car accident in January, so I was kind of like confined to my house for more than I would like. So I've been trying to get out and I thrive on being outside. If I could live on the beach near the water, like that would be ideal for me.
Better speak it to existence.
I'm from Louisiana too, where it's always warm.
Definitely.
So that's my comfort zone. So
Love it. So before we get into the weeds, before we really dive deep, could you just introduce yourself, tell us what you do and how you're changing lives?
Absolutely. My name is Shassity Stevens, and I am a cosmetologist, entrepreneur. I am the owner of Sky Salons, the founder of the Curly Littles campaign, and I just really feel like my purpose in life is to empower others. Everyone that sits in my chair has a purpose, and I feel like that they've been placed in that chair for a reason, and so I just want to empower people in any ways that I can. Not only transforming the hair, but, just the mental, the emotional aspects, it all ties in together.
I think a lot of times when we move more in a service-oriented lifestyle, where we're serving people, empowering people, inspiring people, often, especially in my life, we find ourselves not being intentional about us being poured into. Mm-hmm. What, I guess, intentional process have you implemented within your life so that you can stay full?
Well, in the same aspect that I feel that I am to pour into those people that sit in my chair, so many of my clients, I feel like have been placed in my chair for me as well, especially during, like I said, these last 3 months. Like I tell them, it's like, I knew how y'all like me, but I didn't know I couldn't have imagined the amount of love, and it truly let me know that it wasn't just this, client hairstylist relationship. I'm used to making people feel better, so like it was overwhelming to like have everybody, just show up in a way that I never knew, and so. I think for me, the lesson was to let people be there for me because I'm that strong friend, and just the friends that, check up on you. And so I had to learn to receive, and that's okay because it's a mutual relationship, So that, as well as I'm a huge believer in therapy. Mm-hmm. A lot of times in my position, I am the therapist as well.
Literally.
So I had to learn how to not bring everything home with me, but also like I said, I think you take care of every other part of your body. Why not your mental?
Exactly. I think just that holistic approach is super important.
Yes.
So just kind of walk me back a little bit.
Okay.
You're from Louisiana.
I am.
Talk to me a little bit about your childhood.
So I am the oldest. I'm the boss. So
you thought you were.
I have a hard time remembering that sometimes whenever, I'm around other people that they're not my siblings. I grew up in a small town, North Louisiana, and then I graduated high school, went to LSU. I stayed in Baton Rouge for 10 years and before I moved to Charlotte.
Okay.
So I was a pre-med student. I was on my way to medical school. and I lived on the same street as the cosmetology school as Aveda, and I was just curious, like during the application process, it was about a year long. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? I graduated college early, which I do not recommend. I do not recommend. I mean, I think taking full advantage of that.
All of your
oh my gosh.
Yes.
But yeah, so I was like, I'm just going there and see. Went in, called my mom, was like, I think I'm gonna go to hair school. And she was like, okay, how much is it? I was like, 13. She's like, 1,300, that's not bad. I'm like,
no, friend.
Nah. 13,000. She's like, go ahead. My parents did jobs that pay the bills, made great money. They spent a lot of time away from the home.
Did your
working.
parents go to college, or are you first generation?
My mom went to college after she had her kids,
Okay.
so she went back. Yeah,
So you were the first, essentially, to go to college the traditional way.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. And so she knew what it was like to, work a job that, paid the bills, but maybe didn't fulfill you. And so she was, a huge advocate in saying, go ahead, chase your dreams. And here I am. Yeah.
There's so much in that, though. We're not just going to slide over it. So
Gotta break it down.
You're a pre-med student at this time.
Yes.
And you left almost medical school.
So you after graduating, you apply. You take the MCAT.
Exactly.
I took it 3 times. That was back when it was on paper, 8 hours long. But so you're applying. You're waiting to hear back.
Did you hear back?
Yes.
Did you get accepted?
Yeah.
At what point did you get accepted versus where you were exploring the possibility of going to cosmetology school?
When I was in cosmetology school. It was kind of like right before graduation of cosmetology school.
Walk me through that process.
So, I mean, initially, cosmetology school is about 13 months. So, you're doing the part where you're sitting in the class learning, but then you get on the floor. And that's where you're like hands-on. That's where you're touching people. Like you're actually in, this field that you have, for me, most hairstylists, you kind of been doing it, but it was, just a hobby. And so I get my letters and I'm just like, oh, this is 10 more years because I wanted to do plastics, cosmetic and plastic surgery. So I'm like, do I just jump into the real world now? Or do I want to be studying and buckle down for another 10 years? And I just really prayed about it. It was really a struggle, because for me, it was like, you've been saying all your life you're going to be a doctor.
Exactly.
And it was more so what's going to, bring you peace? What are you going to wake up every day and want to do? And I knew it wasn't studying. Not for the next 10 years. And then, you look at it, for me, it was kind of obviously, you think about the demand, but also the financial aspect, Doctors aren't making as much money as they used to. And
I mean, plastics are doing well.
I'm sure, but that
it's going to take you 20 years.
Yeah, I was about to say. and the cost of medical school too.
Yeah.
So I figured, 13 and 13 months, it was, and I love it. I love it. I have no regrets whatsoever.
Wow. And you talked a little bit about earlier, I don't know, being the friend that always shows up for people. You're that strong friend. Could you walk me to a time, in your life where you didn't want to be the strong friend, but you didn't get the necessary support that you needed, so you had to become that person?
I always say, I don't have a lot of friends. I have different, so I'm in a sorority, so I have all of my sorority sisters. Of course, in my industry, like I said, I've had clients that have become friends, but that core group, I know it sounds cliche, but I can't say that I've ever had a moment where someone didn't show up for me, So I think it's quality over quantity for me.
Yeah.
But probably because I'm very, very selective in who I call friends. It took me a long time before I ever said I had a best friend, But
that's literally.
It took me a long time because I take friendship, to the next level. I'm gonna put you through the ringer before you make the cut.
Literally.
But just because the standard that I set for what I give to friendships. So I look for that. But I can't think of a moment. Let's come back to
though.
it.
Yo,
I feel you
good.
because I feel like we think the same. I have a question.
Okay.
So it's going a little bit off. I assume that you're like me.
Okay.
And I say that because initially, like when I was in the 5th grade, I wanted to be a doctor. I had saw a nip tuck and I wanted to be a plastic surgeon.
Oh, that's a show.
Yeah. And so I'm very detail oriented. I assume you probably are.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your sign?
I'm an Aquarius Capricorn. I'm on the cusp.
Okay. I'm a Libra.
Oh, so is he.
Yes.
Everybody in here.
Okay.
When's your birthday?
October 16th.
That's crazy. Oh, that's crazy. I'm the 12th.
Oh, wow. Yes.
I can't relate, but my sister's the 11th. My sister's October 11th. My brother's October 14th. So everybody's a Libra with me.
Okay.
Anyways, so going off of that. So I'm a planner. You are too. So what is something that is not going to plan right now, or it looks like it's going out of the plan and it's bothering you because you can't figure out how to get it to fit into the plan or figure out if you should abandon the plan altogether?
Well, I will say that the most recent experience that's similar to what you're asking is my opening of my salon suites. You know, I started my business plan in 2015. We broke ground in 2020.
You planned.
I planned and couldn't plan for a pandemic. Couldn't plan for what that would look like. So that I'm not abandoning it, but it was one of those things like everything that for 5 years I had like lined up, and as many no's and, you know, finally getting the yeses that I needed. In Corona, like I can't. So
You couldn't have planned for that.
couldn't have planned for it. And, you know, but everything still has, you know, to keep going. You know, I'm still going to have lease payments. I'm still going to have, you know, to fill these, you know, suites. So having to figure out a new approach to all of that, whether it was marketing, whether it was construction, whether it was, you know, just the rental rates, you know, everybody's making changes, the whole economy. But I do have to say that just staying focused. I know what I'm doing is for a purpose, and not rushing the process, because one thing I don't want is just to get any old body. You know, I again, I'm very selective, and it's like, you know, if I'm gonna go through all of this, then, you know, I'm gonna make sure that it's, you know, worth it and filled with the right people who understand my vision. We're on the same page. We can be, you know, a creative team. So I would have to say that has been the biggest thing I had to rearrange.
I have another question for you.
Go.
So I would assume, because I just think we're the same person. So I would assume that sometimes people make assumptions about you.
Okay.
Not that you necessarily care, but you just acknowledge that they do, right? Is there any assumptions that people make about you that you subconsciously find yourself trying to disprove or debunk? Like, you just do it. Like, for me, for instance, like, I know that people, like, when they see me visually, they think, like, I'm going to be, like, unapproachable or mean or, yeah, I got you. And so when I meet people, I'm very like, hey, like, how are you doing? Because I know that people think that about me.
Yeah.
And it's not like I care that they think that about me. I just know that they do. So I do that. Do you have anything like that?
So part of that I can say yes, and the other part I can say no. I do have that thing, and it's that people think that I'm mean. Mainly because of I think my facial expression. I'm usually like very like direct and very just like, I don't have time for small talk. Really.
Same.
That's same.
So like
It's draining.
Like, ask me what you want to know, kind of thing. But I don't try to disprove it. Like, I let you have your experience with me and what you take away from that, because it's usually just obviously a misconception, but I don't try to change it for sure. Let me think. I'm like I said, in a environment where I don't know anybody. I'm not gonna start the conversation. And I think a part of that is because most times when people like introduce me, they're like, this is Shassity, she's my friend or whatever. Oh, and she's a hairstylist. Then it goes into a consultation of some sort. It doesn't matter if I'm sitting having dinner or I'm like, I'm trying to have a drink. But so I'm very much like gonna be like the wallflower, even though like if you see like my Instagram or if you really know me, like I'm totally not that person, but I'm just not an initiator.
Oh, I get you.
If that makes
Can
sense.
I ask one more? I know Kyle is writing.
I'm ready.
I know
for
you're
We're
writing.
having a bonding moment here.
Do your thing.
It reminded me when you said the wallflower. One of the things about me that my mom, it really bothers her, is that she feels like I take a back seat, and I do. I'm supportive, a supportive person. I think it's one of my best qualities. But when you do that, sometimes you miss opportunities because people don't know. Like if they don't introduce you as this person, I'm not the person that's going to be like in front of everybody's face like, hey, I do this and I do that. And I have a whole bunch of gifts, but a lot of people don't know. Do you feel like there's any opportunities or opportunities that maybe you could have capitalized on if people knew what you had to offer?
So I will say the short answer to that question is I don't think so. Obviously, I don't know what I don't know. But I will say when I moved to Charlotte, I was already flying to Charlotte to do a few clients that were from Louisiana. And so the whole premise of me coming here was like, hey, if you move to Charlotte, we'll have all your clients. And that's what they did. Like literally, I didn't spend a dime on like marketing myself or anything like that when I moved here. So I will have to say that I think the people that know me, they make it a point to, put me in the positions that they feel are,
so
advantageous to me. But I'm not shy. If there's something that, I'm definitely a go-getter. Like if I want to do a partnership or if I want to, I'm not afraid to be told no. I mean, I've been told no a lot. So I'm definitely like gonna go out and get what I'm, looking for, or if it's, position, or if it's, whatever it is. So, I'm gonna look out for myself too, but I definitely think that my circle, my people have held me down for sure.
I think this is good. I do. I have a lot of thoughts though.
I know.
And I feel like I'm taking notes like I'm in school. I think that, because I know you and I feel like y'all have this whole bond just now, like you guys are both perfectionists, right? But I do believe that perfection can paralyze your ability to perform where God needs you to perform.
Absolutely.
So you said earlier, kind of just ask me what you want to know. Like no small talk, ask me what you want to know. And I think a lot of times we're not asked the right questions. So people don't really get what they should have been asking because they don't have I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say this, the intellectual ability to truly ask questions, right? Or great questions that provide them with the right answer that they really wanted to know. So I guess my question is that you lead with a lot of what you do. But who are you at the core of, without any titles, without the hairstylist, without any of those things, because Arden hyped you up.
No, she did.
Personally. The person. And then, you always do your back end research on the actual professional. But who is Shassity at the core?
If I had to sum it up in one word, I would say a servant. I've been given this gift. So whether it's, doing hair, whether it's, a servant of God, I am here to serve, in whatever capacity that I'm led to. I would definitely have to say that, like she said, I don't really care to be the face of any of the things, you know what I mean? I'm more of a behind the scenes person, like even like when I'm doing photo shoots, I'm like, oh, I can't wait till this is over. Like I'd rather be, the one doing the hair, whatever. But that would be the best answer,
What is something that you wish people knew about you, but no one has asked the question yet?
Man, this one you're supposed to give me like in advance. Say it one more time.
What is something that you would want people to know about Shassity, but they just never have asked the question? What was your first thought?
That's what I was about to ask. I saw a thought like in your head or a piece of a thought.
Well, I was gonna say just like, this simply like, like, what do you need? But I can't say that now because like literally, I've been turning them down left and right just because everybody like, just in this moment, the last 3 months, like just the people, like I said, that have been showing up and asking like, what do you need? What can I do? All of that. Which I would say probably before, because I was the one, the roles reversed. Mm-hmm. So this time has just shown me that like when you really need people, those people will show up for you. So I'm sorry I don't have an answer for that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. What are you thinking?
I was thinking a few things. So I guess one of them, I know you put a lot of, you talk a lot about people. Mm-hmm. I believe that too. That everybody can't have access to you. They can't. Are you finding that though? Like right now, I know when new things are happening, sometimes the enemy comes in different forms. And can sometimes disguise themselves as things that seem appealing or seem needed or seem just like, they seem attractive. Can you see as you're nearing success and, all these plans are coming to fruition, have you seen the enemy take any forms that you didn't necessarily prepare for?
No, because I know he can.
He be coming.
He be coming.
He do.
But God be knowing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, just being aware that, what my plan was
mm-hmm.
doesn't compare to what God's plan is, and just focusing and knowing that like his plan is the plan. Great. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I have to be able to like relinquish that control and that, I know everything and this is the way it's supposed to go just because, like you said, I'm a perfectionist and this is how I've lined it out to be, that you got to roll with the flow, It's not going to be like I said, like the saying goes, you tell God your plan and he laughs,
yeah.
So I've been laughing with him, child, because I see that, we got to scratch that,
I have another one.
What you got?
What is the best thing that's ever happened to you that wasn't according to plan?
Well, two things I would think. Like I said, just the change in careers. I always think of that meme where it has like Jesus and he has the
bear behind his back.
Yes. Yeah. That has been a reoccurring theme in my life. Is like, look, Shassity, you think that big shiny thing, but you never know.
That's not the thing.
That's not the thing. And then my move to Charlotte. I would have stayed in Louisiana forever, probably. I loved it. I didn't have any complaints. I was doing well in my career. But I was brought here to open a traditional salon. Like some of my friends, they were like, you need to move here. You need to move here. And so I flew here, servicing people for about 2 years before I was like, all right, we'll see. And if I don't like it, I can always move back. But I'd never been to anywhere in the Carolinas. The furthest I'd been probably was Georgia, so I had never even thought about North Carolina. But it's been great. I like that it's not, New York City, but it's a little, more fast-paced than Louisiana. We need some better food options coming from Louisiana, but it's not too cold. It's still like, that small town feel, even though it has like, some big city quality. So I would have to say it's been good. It's been good for me for sure.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
You know me. And I like to just listen because I feel like you learn a lot more when you're listening. Because I feel like when you're not talking, you should be listening and learning. And when you're speaking, you should be teaching. So I guess my question for you, because I believe that a lot of times we're judged based upon what we produce to the world, instead of creating measures for what success looks like internally for us. Mm-hmm. When you think about everything that you've accomplished, when you think about everything that you continue to do, outside of the professional, how do you measure that Shassity is being successful as a woman?
I would have to say my happiness, and I mean, that can look like several different things. Obviously, especially with you asking me these questions, I realize like how much of my career it consumes who I am. Yeah. But if I had to think outside of that, I'm one of those people that I kind of tend to take on things that people around me are dealing with, you know.
Same.
So I had to say the success of those, around me is part of how I evaluate, my success. I feel like I'm a, part of their lives. And if I can enrich their lives in any way or be of any assistance, whatever that may look like, that makes me happy. I would have to say my peace of mind, because my mom always said it's priceless. So I'm one of those people that I work very hard to get to the place that I am mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And when you do the work, you won't let anybody, disturb that peace.
Talk to me a little bit about that work, because we definitely share that same quality. In, the last 4 years since I've been here, there's been a lot of work mentally, spiritually, emotionally that I needed to mature in so that I could be able to produce the results financially or professionally. So talk to me about that work, that process that you went through to be able to continue to restore the balance within your life.
So going back to therapy, it was something that I didn't jump into until I moved to Charlotte, which in May will be 9 years. So for like the first 2 or 3 years, and I think I kind of felt like, okay, I'm in Charlotte. Nobody knows me really. It felt like a safe start. Not that, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal back home, but I just felt like, all right, we're starting fresh. Let me, start with a clean slate. And just kind of understanding myself and how I, process things, the reason why I react to things certain ways. The things that I'm one of those people that I kind of put things on a shelf, and I won't deal with it.
I'll get back to it later.
I'll get back to it later, but it's going to come out at some point, whether I plan for it or not. Yeah. So I didn't like that. Mm-hmm. I wanted to know, everything. I needed to get to know me, So for me, I did it. I went every week. I was lucky enough to find a therapist that, like, on the first try, like, I liked her, we vibed, like, and she got me. And I did, like I said, for about 2 years. And I think that I was able to, just the way I work, with people, or just accepting those things about myself and just giving myself grace, At that time I was, late 20s, but it's just like, you don't realize how much, what you do as a child, or even, in your college years, all those things can affect you as an adult. And I feel like in order to be a whole person, I needed to do, that work on myself. I am a preacher's kid. Oh, yeah. So, growing up in the Deep South in a Kojic church, yeah.
We'll leave it there.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. So, it was a lot of things that, as an adult, it was like, here I am. Okay, now what am I going to create for myself? Because here I am in control of, my life fully.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We are here with Shassity. We're having a great conversation.
We are.
I feel her, so it's cool.
I feel like I'm talking to two Kianas.
Kianas.
It's very strange.
Weird, right?
So I have one last question before we switch it up because we got something special planned for you.
Okay.
So just kind of to go forward, you talked about you obviously being the oldest child, you thought you were the boss in the household. That has trickled over into other areas of your life. How has that affected relationships and you being, I'm going to preface it. So you grew up obviously as a preacher's kid. So there are certain things that we've been taught in scripture that obviously a woman is supposed to adhere by, right? And anybody that's listening, I promise I'm not a sexist. So to fast forward, you grew up as the oldest child. You thought you were running things, but in reality, there were probably some conflicts in regards to relationships. Talk to me about that.
What kind of relationships?
You
can answer that as the first
one. The one you don't want to talk about, talk about that one. Whatever one came up.
Listen. I don't mind taking a back seat. You know what I mean? I'm just one of those people that like, I can, if I want it done right, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. So I'm not gonna sit around and wait on nobody. Good. Like, you know, but I mean, as far as like love life, I don't mind. I can pay them bills, but I don't mind if somebody come in and, you know, I don't have a problem like being submissive at all.
This is a conversation that we haven't brought up in the podcast.
Because I feel like it's so
such a controversial topic.
But,
so I'm interested in hearing your
It's going to be the same
thoughts,
as mine. I already know.
Right? Your thoughts on this ideology of submission. Because I grew up differently. So, you know, first 5 years for me, Pops held it down like crazy. And then, so my mom stayed at home with all of the kids because, you know, my dad was like, you know, I don't want you to work because I was the baby. So completely different. I was the loved one in the bunch. So he, you know, she was there with me. He held it down, continued to invest in her, and then the roles switched. But I saw visually, at first, my dad supported it, and then like it was like a clear gap, like hundreds of thousands of dollars gap. Yeah. But I saw the transition. But then I saw like how they work through the transition, and then I could see how the roles shift. So, you know, you could be the breadwinner at one point, but then you may have to take a backseat the next season that you're in. So it's just interesting to hear, you know, women's perspectives, especially now in 2021. I feel like
I'm every woman.
Yeah, so shout out to Brenton Edwards, Entrepreneur Clothing Line, because I do believe that behind every great man, there's an even greater woman. I'm gonna preface it one more time and then I'm gonna let you answer.
Preface it again, Kyle.
So
clean it up.
I was listening to they were interviewing Michelle Obama. This was years ago, when the man was back in office, and they were asking, you know, about her relationships before Obama, and then they were saying that like, who would you be if you weren't the first lady? And then she said, I would still be the first lady. She said, I put Barack Obama into office. And I was like, oh.
Period.
I like that. So I guess just talk to me about your perspective in regards to submission or.
So I will have to say, I don't think that I could ever be like a stay-at-home mom. I think that's a very tough job. I don't think it's necessarily, you know, because you're a stay-at-home mom, like it's any easier for sure. So shout out to all the moms out there that stay at home. I do think that, you know, I don't want to be behind the chair forever, you know, which is why I'm creating, you know, revenue, you know, avenues where I can make revenue in my sleep. You said it right there. But I'm passionate about what I do, so I want to always have the option to do that should I, you know, desire. However, I don't think, to me, it's more of like, I feel like, obviously I'm not married, but I think that I've controlled. I've been, you know, driving the car. I don't mind sitting in the passenger side, you know. So to me, submission doesn't necessarily look like, you know, whether you are the breadwinner necessarily or not. Like, I don't equate it to that, but you know, whatever that particular man feels like, you know, he needs to make him feel. I feel like we obviously have to be in agreement with that, but I don't think that it's necessarily like on whether I work or not. But for me, I think that a man is supposed to be the head of the household. I definitely think that, I've been in positions where, I've held a man down in times. So I'm not, opposed to that.
Talk to me about head of household. What does that mean? Define that. Because I think that a lot of people equate head of household to breadwinner. A lot of people may equate head of household to certain things as well, right? So I think words are important to me. Mm-hmm. Like if I hate when people misuse words or they use it, and in conversation, you may have a definition of that word and I may have a different definition. Right. So it creates conflict or just a misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. So what would your definition of head of household mean?
I mean, first and foremost, I think it would be the leader as far as making like the decisions for the betterment of the family. Obviously, communicating with one another, but also, just looking out to making sure that, our family is safe, our family is secure, and just making sure that the goals we've set as in our partnership we're moving in that direction. So again, that can encompass, finances. That can, encompass, the success of our children or our businesses, things of that nature. So that's kind of where I would.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know you have a plethora of
I have so many thoughts, but this isn't a topic I talk about because I think most people don't agree with me. So it's like I stay away from it.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I think it's interesting because I think naturally when you talk about head of household, you talk about submission, people naturally do want to equate money to it, except not to get super religious, but the Bible doesn't say your man needs to make more money than you. It just says like that women and then men, like they, as a man, as the leader of the household and like the decision maker, it doesn't matter if he's making $20,000. You chose him, and that is your, like, as his helpmeet, like it doesn't matter how much money he's making. It is more difficult to, I think for most women, if they're making more money than their man or whatever, it is more difficult to want to respect their decisions if they're not working at all, or like they're just working at, not anything wrong with this, but like working at, I don't know, fast food or something like that. It's more difficult to be like, I'm going to let you make all the decisions about everything and they don't make any money. But as a wife, it's not supposed to be like dependent on money.
I think society has done a very capitalistic way of creating a narrative where men feel as if we do have to be the breadwinner to receive love or to receive respect, or to, like, a woman won't submit until you make more. So, and this is me coming from personal experience, right? So I've always felt like I had to be the breadwinner. I will never be, and not never. I used to believe that I would never be with a woman that made more money than me, because I saw visually how it stripped my father from certain decisions. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, from a woman's perspective, how are you telling me what I should be doing with the money that I made?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, you know what? Okay. So I'm going to create these real estate assets. I'm going to create this asset. I'm going to create this business. I'm going to let you make your money, but I'm going to set it up in a way where, not that I control where the money goes, but I show you that I'm worthy of making financial decisions.
Let's be clear though, when you talk about money stuff, it is a control for anybody that feels like you can't tell me what to do with my money, because at the point where we're married, it's our money. Any assets that you have are ours. My mom is very intentional about saying that to my dad, because my dad did 20 years in the military, but so did she, technically, like unofficially. So right now, if they were to separate, she gets half of his retirement. Like, she earned that from being there for 20 years. So it's like, that is a control that you would feel like and that's why, like, I have such conflict, because I would want to be the stay-at-home mom, like what you talked about, because my mom does it. And so, but then it's like, when you talk about that control thing, a man that is the breadwinner does have the ability to control situations. He may not exercise that, but you would not be like...
Yeah, that's the thing with me. So, like, And we're going to wrap this around to a question, I promise.
You're fine. I like the Steve Harvey approach on the bank account, the 4 bank account. So
Yeah, so I really believe that I don't exercise control when it comes to money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna shift that. Hold on. So sometimes I do exercise control. So I believe that I'm a very logical person when it comes to finances.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't believe that it can benefit the family, or if it can't benefit, I'm gonna just say the family, right? Then I don't believe that our money should go towards that place. That's where it gets into, like she explained earlier, submission, right? So if I was in a relationship and my wife wanted to spend $100,000 on a wedding, I don't agree with that. I don't care how much money we have, period. Because we could put that $100,000 into an opportunity zone neighborhood, and in the next 20 years, let's say that opportunity zone neighborhood is worth $20 million, that's tax-free money. I'm just saying. So I just believe that certain investments or certain areas that we route our revenue or our money needs to be seen as an opportunity to, if it can't advance our children, then I don't believe it should be spent.
I think that's convenient when it's what she wants to do. But say you want to spend $100,000 on a private jet. You're not going to say, no matter
That's
how
not
much money
though.
or whatever the price is, you could also take that same amount, put it in an opportunity zone neighborhood, and reap the benefits of that. It doesn't necessarily, I just think like we have to be like, see both sides. I think it's easy for men because men don't value weddings in the same way that women do. Like that's a very woman thing. Like,
yeah, that's why I went straight to that one.
I know that is why. But
I think the biggest thing here is, establishing all these things during dating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, a lot of times we get so wrapped up into, the physical, the sexual, everything but the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when it comes down to, being one and being equally yoked. It's you eliminate certain aspects of that.
That's true.
And so I think communication, like from the beginning, and understanding, because you can like somebody down all the way to the way they spend their money, and that can be a deal breaker,
That's true.
So you have to kind of evaluate that before you put that ring on it.
So walk me through that process of evaluating that, right? So walk me through that first date or that first interaction or that first conversation where you may visually be attracted to somebody, of course, but you now need to set a foundation or a premise of like, all right, these are the different check boxes.
Well, I think first, are we talking about somebody that's dating to get married?
Yeah.
Because that's the difference, because you have a lot of people that are out here, just dating.
Just out here.
Yeah. So I think if you're intentional about it, I think such thing as, what's your relationship with, both of your parents? What was your, like you asked me, what was your childhood like? What, if any investments, what, financial, I guess, aspirations do they have? Like that's
that's a good question.
You may not be there yet, but where are you trying to get? Maybe we're on the same page. Maybe I can help you. Maybe that ain't really where I'm trying to go. Whatever. Maybe not necessarily on the first date, but I think very early on, because we're not wasting time here.
Facts.
What's your credit score?
People don't like talking about that.
Let's rewind. That's a first date question?
Not a first date, but we're in the first 3. In the first 3, because we wasting time. What we gonna wait? 2-3 months later.
That's good.
We've invested
into each other.
Yeah, we've invested too much time, and you probably, the more time you spend just smooth sailing, glazing over,
kicking it.
kicking it.
Nah.
The less likely you are to ask those questions. So
it's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of times we meet someone obviously based upon the physical. We have representative questions within the first 3 dates. We forge some type of connection because we don't want to be lonely. Mm-hmm. And we never really ask the hard questions until there's some type of controversy or conflict. Then the hard questions begin to get asked. But then you feel like it's been 6 months, 7 months, we could work through it. Now that person, either you become dependent on them, they become dependent on you, or you feel a need to now help them because you've vested so much time. So I love what you're saying. Like, you need to have these crucial conversations on the front end But my question for you is, once you've had those crucial conversations and you are not equally yoked, what would be your response or recommendation for that person to get out of that situation?
Well, I think you have to decide what you can, deal with, what you can live with, what you can work through. Because, again, you have this checklist, you have, what you think things should look like, but some things may outweigh others. And there may be some things that you're willing to bend the rules for a little bit. Everybody is different. But for me, again, going back, I'm a straight shooter. I'm very direct. I'm not going to waste my or your time. And I mean, it's as simple as that. Let's, whatever that particular thing is, like, hey, I have a really big problem with that. Maybe it's not how I was raised, or I don't really see how that, benefits me, or it's not something that I'm, really willing to change. And it could be, are you willing, like, do you like me enough to, make any adjustments?
I don't like you enough to do it. But
yeah, but I mean, I know what else I bring to the table, so do those outweigh, But I think, again, it's like, I'm one of those people that I establish a friendship first. So if I can't talk to you, like, just on some real conversation, then we're not going to go anywhere anyway. So, I mean.
That's good.
And
that's
if that
good.
scares you, that also says
right.
something, that speaks volumes.
Definitely. It's interesting because I thought about when she was saying, like, sometimes you got to bend the rules for certain people. I believe that when you're in different seasons, those rules become different.
Yep.
My rules now are completely different than the rules that I had 4 years ago when I moved here.
Absolutely.
In dealing or engaging with women, right? Or just people in general, of course. So it's like, it's interesting because I was even thinking of some rules that I bent with some people, and I'm like, I would never do that today.
No.
Or now it's like, do you, like, we were talking, what song was it? I was listening to the Lil Boosie Independent song yesterday. It came on, and I was like, got my own house, got my own car.
2 jobs, work hard.
And I was like, and then I was thinking of somebody, I was like, you ain't got no job, no car, no nothing. I'm just like, where was I in that season that allowed that to be okay?
But you had to go through that season to get
Exactly.
where you are now. So for me, same thing, but I wouldn't take any of that back because it taught me something, and it taught me about me, and
That's
so I wouldn't know what I know now had I gone through that.
I appreciate it such more now that I did, that I can look back and I was like, wow, like, you've grown. And we was talking about that the other day about how growth isn't like something that you see, I don't know, visually. Growth, you recognize growth when you go through something and your reactions are different.
Right.
It's kind of like somebody says something that you don't like, but before you would have checked them, but now it's just like, I'm gonna have grace, and I'm gonna just, you're not a part of this life anymore, right? My boy, shout out to Jake Taylor, because he was talking about how, I told you the story, when people call him, he doesn't block people's numbers. And he was saying that I don't go out of my way to block, to unfollow, to delete numbers in my phone, because when people call now, that person no longer lives here. That person that you used to know, that person that allowed this call to come through, that person that allowed those boundaries to be crossed, no longer is living. He said, when I answer the phone now, I just say that person died. He said, because this is Jake Taylor 2.0. You don't have access to this person like you used to have access to the other person. And it's just so interesting being able to recognize growth, right? Just based upon bending the rules. We're going to go on a commercial.
Welcome back, guys. So we are about to switch it up. We are still here with Shassity. So if you'll notice, there is a red box in the middle of the table. Inside the box are questions. I would like for you to take the red box, read the question, and then answer it.
Like playing a game?
It's a little bit of a game.
I love games. Just one, right?
Just one.
Who wrote them?
Me.
Okay.
Oh, you were scared.
What is something that you need to make a decision about? What is stopping you from moving forward with a decision? I don't like this one.
Why?
I'm a decider.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing up in the air.
I'm very decisive. It's almost scary.
All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to add a little twist because we did it before, right? So if that doesn't align with you, right? If that doesn't speak with you, then you got to pass that question and then you point to who's going to answer it, and then you got to pull another one.
Okay.
I knew she was going to do that to you.
Yeah.
I knew. You thought it was going to be me.
I really did. I kept looking over here.
No, I want him
friend,
to
I knew
asking me all these questions.
What is something that you need to make a decision about?
That's a great one for him. Good job.
From moving forward with a decision? That's a great question. What is something that you need to make a decision about? I've been going through this season of like eliminating relationships. And it's interesting because listen to a sermon, and it was asking, the title of the sermon was, "Are you pruned?" Because God intentionally removes branches from us being the tree. Like, we don't have to go out and like say, "Hey, I'm not friends with you," or "You did this." Like, we don't have to do that. We just get close to the vine. When we're connected to the vine, to the source, it's going to ultimately, disconnect branches from our lives. But one thing that I'm realizing is that God is working through those branches being removed, but I'm going back and trying to grab the branch and like glue it back onto the tree. And I'm recognizing that it's not advantageous to where I should be putting my energy, right? So that's one thing that I've made decisions about more recently, ending certain relationships, allowing God to move through certain relationships, and not being. I've been very intentional with creating a story around a painful moment in my life and showing people how you can become powerful from that pain. You good?
Stomach's growling. Sorry.
So I think what I've recently realized is that story no longer lives where I'm going. I think one thing that I've learned just here more recently is that some people live off of stories that create their careers, right? It's kind of like you go to prison, you come out, and then you like turn your life around, go to Harvard, and then you're the super successful person, but you're still living off that story, and that story like drives your whole career. I do believe, though, that as we become successful, as I've become successful, I've stayed in that story, and it's been the driving factor. But I no longer want that story to be the driving factor. I want to recreate my story. And the story doesn't look as painful anymore. The story is like, damn, like you're really dope. Like, damn, you've triumphed. Like, damn, like, no, you've been consistent and you continuing to be consistent. So I feel like I'm making a decision that I no longer want my story to be rooted from pain. And I actually just want that story like, yo, like he's been killing it for this long of a time. And he's rising to this point. What is stopping me from making or moving forward with the decision? I think because I've put so much of my identity in an experience that I'm unsure who I would be if I actually became what I envisioned. So it's one of those things where it's like you have to trust God. Like, that's what I'm getting. Like, just trust me. I got you. Like, I got you. So that's what
Can I play co-host for a second?
Nah, do your thing. Do your thing.
As a cutoff queen, why do you...
Same.
That's crazy.
Why do you have such a hard time eliminating those relationships that you are just now deciding to let go?
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
Hopefully I don't get emotional.
Go ahead, Kyle.
This is like a real answer. So I've seen my father, and Kaya could attest to this, like my brother, not choose himself for 31 years married to my mother, like ever. And he's done so much for other people. Like, he's helped me become this man. He's helped everyone, like all the kids in the community. Like my house growing up was like the house. Like everybody would come over our house. He's never choosing himself, and I've had conversations with him because he doesn't know what life is without my mother. He's literally created his identity with a woman that if she was to pass, I would honestly be more fearful, not on my emotion, but him. So I don't know what it looked like. It's kind of like, I always thought like, so I'm talking about the mother of my son, right? So came here years ago, crazy situation. Like I gave up everything to come here to really like be that father, be that man, and then got fucked over, just to keep it real. So the reality of it is that I built everything out of that pain, out of that like depression, anxiety, that loss of identity. Like I became like everything that you should have wanted back then, right? You should have chose this person back then. And it's like, I came here because I thought in my mind that's what men do. Like you show up for your family, you stay in relationships, even if they're, doing this, you stay and you do this and you deal with it and you deal with it because I've seen it in the household. Like that was my representation. Yes, it's beautiful. Growing up 2-parent homes, I didn't have to worry about anything. Privilege for sure, but privilege at a fault. Privilege that created pain and a narrative that you stay even when you should have left. So at some points in my life growing up, I wish my parents would have just split up. Because it wasn't all of my friends saw us as like, yo, like I wanted to be like y'all. I wanted to grow up like y'all.
Outside looking in.
But like, nah, like I wanted to leave this family because it's like, it's not what it really looks like. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, why it's hard because like my father is everything. Like he's like still to this day, like my hero. Like we have, tough conversations. But if the hero could stay when the hero needed to leave, damn, maybe that's what I should do. So I'm unlearning. That's one thing that I'm really trying to unlearn. Like, yo, like it's okay. Like life will be okay getting rid of that person or moving in a different direction. So like you're the cutoff queen, but like I'm like I become the crutch for other people.
Gotcha.
Because I feel like you need me here.
That's what she was asking about. I think those branches that you were trying to glue back on, those people.
That too.
Yeah.
I feel like it's all rooted from that.
Yeah. I got you. That's why I go back to being that whole person. You have to be two whole people, or whether it's you and your father, or whatever other relationships. That for me, it's like if I'm anything less than my whole self, I can't fully, give to this situation. So
no, that's 100. And now more recently, it's kind of like I've become that whole person, and I've even challenged certain people in my life that I like grew up with, right? Or like I haven't allowed certain things to be in my sphere or be in my environment because it's like you have to, like when you look at who you want to be 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now, you have to embody the principles and the behaviors and the actions now before you actually are able to receive that. Like I'm becoming a husband before I'm a husband.
that's right.
Like I had to embody I had to get my shit together before I had a son. You know what I'm saying? So like I became a CEO before I actually ran a company. So all of these different things, I wanted to embody the responsibilities, the principles before I actually got the gift from what God was going to give me. So that's a great question.
Yeah.
But you got to pull.
That's what I was about to say, Shassity. You did not.
You got to pull one.
Get out of that.
Get back to the little box. Okay. What is one relationship in your life that you would like to be stronger? So I have an answer to this question. There are a few, mostly in my immediate family. I would have to say my siblings for sure, even though I'm the oldest. I'm the only person in my family that lives in Charlotte. And I think because we're all so different, my sister right behind me is 3 years younger, and then the other ones are like 11, years younger and more. So obviously the age gap, but also the distance and just the idea, you have this idea of what family is supposed to look like, whether it's on looking at other families, whether it's television or, things like that. And I don't think that the sibling bond that we could have is as strong as it could be. I think when you think about, parents and getting older and things like that, you're all you have.
Exactly.
And so I definitely would say just even if it's starting with just communicating more with my siblings, us learning how to effectively communicate, because we communicate.
It's not effective,
but it's
all
not
the time.
effective all the time. And it's usually just, conditional. It's not routine. It's not regular. Even I think in this day and age where, you just get comfortable with texting. We need to visit more often. We need to get on the phone. My biggest fear is just, one day not being able to do that, and it's like, well, why are you wasting time? So I definitely have to figure out a balance on how I can keep my peace and have a stronger relationship. But I think, we have to collectively want to work on that. And so that would be my answer.
That's good. This has been an amazing conversation. I feel like it's interesting because so many times we do lead with our profession, but that's by default because people just don't ask about who we are as the person, right? So many times, even when we were at the networking events or just in general in person, it's like, hey, who are you? What do you do? Is always the first question instead of like, hey, who are you? What makes you different? Who did you inspire today? When's the last time you felt out of love, right? And it's just asking the right question. And I believe that this whole conversation for you was, open, showing your resiliency, showing your ability to pivot, your ability to continue to gain perspective, but your ability to continue to hold people accountable to show up for you, or they won't be able to enjoy the show that you're creating. This is Around the Way podcast.